The Brian Mudd Show is on News Radio 610 WiOD.
Herein lies, right? We were talking in the previous segment about information's change over the course of time. We've learned so much more during the course of this pandemic. Vaccines have changed certain dynamics to things, but then also your different variants and in real time. The bottom line, and I'm going to elaborate on this and tell you how I got from here to there, but Omicron in Florida. All these cases you hear every day, it's like, dun, 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 you know, another 70,000 cases or whatever the number is today. Most people have it, don't even know it. Got evidence on that. Also, for those who are contracting the Omicron variant, it is proving to be 76.6 times less likely to result in death in Florida compared to the original virus. So much has changed. So we need to evolve informationally, perhaps as the virus itself is even evolving. And on that note, mask. So we know the whole school mask debate here in South Florida. That is settled for now. State law has determined that it is parental choice. We have our South Florida school districts that still strongly encourage students to mask up while having teachers mask. But speaking of that, a new study is in, and the results inconclusive. Taking a look at this, Patty Olinger, infectious disease expert, the executive director of the Global Biorisk Advisory Council, joins us once again. Happy Monday, Patty.
Happy Monday. How are you today?
Yeah, doing pretty well. I'm ready for the Supreme Court to rule, but other than that, pretty well. So tell us a little bit about, this study. It was an English study that, it took a look in a very methodical way at the impact of those students who are masking versus those who weren't. And the results in the end, inconclusive. What do you see there?
Well, if it was in favor of anything a little bit, it was of those who were masked. It was better than those who were not. The problem with that study that I have is that it wasn't a controlled study. And when we're looking at trying to make decisions on things, unless you can really control, not just when they're at school, but when they're out of school, it gets pretty tough to say, what are all the elements?
To your point, Patty,
yeah.
I mean, just on that point, I think it is so well articulated because remarkably, and this was something ended up cracking the math on after last school year, students who were engaged in remote learning last school year ended up contracting COVID at a higher rate than students that attended classroom education in the state of Florida. And I mean, it just goes to show that what happens outside the classroom is often more effectual than what would happen in the classroom, even if somebody might be infected that's inside that classroom.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that tells a lot of things. I mean, there's a lot of things that we could, filter out and discuss on just one-on-one. What we're looking for is that single, we'll say, thing that we can do that gets us out of this. And unfortunately, it is what I've said, what we've talked about. It's a layered approach. And when it's a puzzle, and when a piece of that puzzle is missing, it just increases your odds, say, of contracting the virus. And that's nothing new. It was the same for flu and other things, or measles, say. And so, we know that masks will filter both in and out viral particles, but it's not the overall answer. And but they have a positive effect.
Patty, I've seen, and maybe this is a product of Omicron being that much more contagious, that a lot of people that have, or organizations or entities that have been moving in mask policies still have said, it's got to be the N95 because a lot of the cloth mask, we've always known that the cloth masks were not as effective going all the way back, but that really they're dropping down with this particular variant, and it's the N95s or that you got to go with if you really want any kind of meaningful protection. What do you think?
Well, so I'm sure some folks are going to yell at me about this one. So N95, is NIOSH approved for occupational related issues. There's so much that goes in place on that. If you, as an employer, hand over an N95, you need to make sure that you have a fit testing, a medical surveillance. There is a ton of things because they are built for occupational related issues. What I think is missing is a consumer product standard for face coverings. What does that mean? Because I have seen face coverings out there that are made of material, that are constructed, that are not occupationally related respirators, but that they do a tremendous job, great job on filtering in and out viral particles and bacterial particles. And so, I think that we're missing the boat for consumer areas for coming up with a consumer product standard.
It's a good takeaway. And we'll leave it there with that takeaway. Patty, always a pleasure. And no yelling at you here.
Oh, no yelling at me. Well, you have a great day,
You
and
too.
go dogs.
You know what? I think, generally speaking, you'll probably find more of that than not, even in most of SEC country, for that matter. Patty Olinger, an infectious disease expert, executive director of the Global Biorisk Advisory Council.